Hello viewers and listeners, once again this is Edward Thama sitting down here with members of the Meghalaya State Commission for Women, or as we all call it, the Women's Commission. We have here with us Joy Grace Syiem, and I'd like her to introduce herself more, and we will be talking about some topics which will be a continuation of the 16 days of activism that you have seen in their Instagram and all the other socials, and I hope you'll be taking something from this podcast today, people who are listening to us and people who are watching us. Joy, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Edward. My name is Joy Grace Syiem, and I am currently the legal co-opted member at the Meghalaya State Commission for Women. I have been at the Women's Commission since 2022. But prior to that, I have been working primarily on cases related to women and children, both nationally and regionally. I started out my career actually prosecuting cases of commercial sexual exploitation in Bombay and Calcutta. So yeah, but now it's been almost like 10 years, 10 to 14 years that I've come back to Shillong, and we all grew up, with the myth of living in Shillong or being from Meghalaya and it being a matrilineal society.
Yes.
And that, you're an empowered woman. So even I grew up with, that notion of, we don't have any violence against us. Mm-hmm. So it has been a great challenge for me for the last 10 years, actually coming back to challenge that barrier and that myth that women are empowered, which takes away our agency and our voice. Mm-hmm. So my work now is really to give women back that agency where we are able to talk freely of the violence that we face, but also at the same time to claim the rights that we are entitled to as citizens of India.
Exactly. In fact, one of the people who were interacting with us last week during those programs said that how come you are from Meghalaya and there is problems with women in your society? Well, to answer that and to also speak more about it, if you have been following the Meghalaya State Commission for Women on their Instagram and the other socials, you would have seen they just completed their 16 days of activism. And they had road shows, they had different kind of programs to sensitize mostly on domestic violence. That is one of the topics we'll be talking about today. Well, in relationships, I know they are hard, they're built on trust, they respect, and on healthy communication, but sometimes there's a line to how we communicate with each other. It can start with kisses and hugs to blows and guns and whatnot. Well, things like I said, they don't go as planned. So today we want to talk about that, one of the topics that the Commission stressed upon in the 16 days of activism, domestic violence, and the science, the impact, and how to get help about it. Could you describe, so to say, in a very simplistic way, in a very brief way, the common signs of domestic violence that people might not recognize?
Yeah. So I prefer to not call it domestic violence, because sometimes I think when we just use that term, we are limiting, who can actually get redressal from it. So even with the United Nations, that has been changed actually now to intimate partner violence. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times women, and this is what I've seen in the Commission also, they think, oh, we have to be married to the person, for it to become domestic violence. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the laws related to domestic violence, it's actually intimate partner violence. So you could be in a relationship with anyone. It could be a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. It could be, you could be husband and wife. Or what you have here in our society where people cohabit. Mm-hmm. We don't necessarily get married, we cohabit. Yeah. So I don't want to limit it, because I still think that narrative is very strong in our society that, oh, if I am a victim of domestic violence, I need to be married, to this person. So a lot of times there are a lot of young girls as well in their 20s who are in relationships, and they are already, nowadays with our generation, people live in together, maybe they might be in college and they share an apartment, and they face a lot of violence, which so many of them, from what I've seen, then they give up their studies, they want to give up their careers because of that particular relationship that they're having. So I just want, through this conversation that we're having, also to let our viewers know that you don't have to be married in order for it to be a case of domestic violence, but you can also be in a live-in relationship, and it would fall within the ambit of the law.
Okay, that's a great way to describe something that, generally students don't understand this. And in fact, now if you say that, and I'm sure people who are listening to this, especially college students who are listening or who are watching this on YouTube, might say, okay, am I a victim? Right, so let's talk about some of the signs that, when you talk about, does it have to be physical abuse? Is it verbal? Let's talk about some of the signs so that people recognize that, okay, I am actually a victim of violence.
Yeah. So I think when you meet somebody, I mean, you're not going to, get that sign that, oh, this is going to be somebody who's going to be violent with me.
Right.
But also we must understand the cycle of violence. Like I always, tell everybody, or whoever I'm speaking with, or if I'm going to universities and colleges or offices, no man is born a criminal. Right? No one is born a rapist. No one is born to be a perpetrator of violence. But your circumstances, and if you do gender studies, you learn about the power dynamics that is there in society that makes people become violent, and therefore, they show out and they express different ways of it. So I won't say that there are any signs, but in every relationship, that you might have with someone, there are certain triggers. And we women, and I can speak out of experience as well, but also with my interactions with a lot of youth nowadays, we have this notion that we can change someone, or that this guy will change for me, because we relate that notion to true love, because our understanding of love, I feel, is so warped,
Right.
nowadays. I don't think anyone really, especially at your youth and in your adolescence, your understanding of love is so based on media, what the media is showing you. At my time, it was, Mills and Boons. And so we would, that became like the standard of every kind of relationship. And I think not having those conversations, we don't have those conversations openly with our parents, with our siblings, or just with our elders of, what does being in a relationship mean? And what is a healthy relationship?
Yes.
And unhealthy relationships. So a lot of women and young girls, the sign is there where the guy starts being dominating. The cases we've received, don't wear clothes like that. You're dating me now. You have to live to a certain standard, dress a certain standard. Those are all signs of, of someone trying to dominate you, but not really being with you because they love who you are. And I think that's very important. And even if you are in a relationship that is like that right now, the mistake we're making is we're not communicating that, hey, listen, what you're saying to me is not comfortable. But what women tend to do and young girls tend to do is like, okay, I'll fall in line, and then when I get married, he'll change. Or when I'm able to fall in line, then he'll change. So that concept, of always we can change the guy, and because we can change the guy, then, that's how he really loves me. I think it's that.
Right. And based upon the cases that you receive in the commission, do you receive more cases of, if I say domestic violence, even in the new definition that you have given, is it more of people who are married or out of wedlock or anything of that sort?
So here in Meghalaya, it's mostly cohabitation.
Okay.
But we are not seeing young girls come and report or talk of intimate partner violence as much as more those who've, lived with someone, had children with them.
Maybe they don't consider that as part of DV, like you said. Maybe they feel only after they're married.
Yeah. So they still go, they'll come to the commission, like girls from who have just started working or who are in college,
Yeah.
and they'll say, he assaulted me, so
Okay.
I need to file, a criminal case.
Right.
Or he slapped me, but they think that this is not domestic violence.
Okay.
I need to go file
More
an
of an
FIR. Yeah,
assault
yeah.
case.
They misunderstand it that way. So we're like, oh, are you in a relationship? Then they say, yes, we are. We're living together. And then it becomes the hair.
Yeah. Well, now if we consider the cases that are coming in, and actually last time also when we had the previous podcast, we spoke about a lot of things, from what does the commission do, the kind of cases. We spoke a little bit about domestic violence, and some of the comments that we received, that please also consider the other side of the coin. Now, statistically, you receive more cases of domestic violence where the woman is the victim. I'm sure of that. But do you also receive any complaints from the men? Because that's one of the comments. I mean, going on a light note here, where people are saying, please do not talk only about women's rights, talk about human rights also.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I talk of gender rights.
Right.
Irrespective of, I'm not saying, so the statistics have always been higher on women and children facing crimes, but I
Right.
think that is like a separate podcast we'll have to have altogether as to why.
Correct.
Okay, because we are seen as the weaker sex and the power dynamics and all that. But that does not mean that a man cannot be a victim of domestic violence or cannot be a victim of sexual harassment. Because we are seeing cases of men facing domestic violence as well. Now, the problem is that our laws in India are not gender neutral. Even if you look at the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act,
Yeah.
it's not gender neutral.
Right.
But when you make your policies, which I tell a lot of officers, make your policies gender neutral. Because here I'm not talking only about a man and woman. We also have people who represent other genders.
Correct.
And we must, when we're talking about equity and rights for everybody, irrespective of your sex. So yes, to answer your question, I have had cases, and we are also currently actually having cases right now at the commission where, men, I'm not saying that they've come to file a case of domestic violence, because men don't know that they can do that also. No? They don't
Okay.
know. But when we are sitting and discussing with, the partners and the families who are there, then we are very open to tell him, but actually you're the one facing domestic violence.
Right.
And then I think it takes a lot of time, though, for a man to be able to also process that is happening to him. But with men, I see a lot of the cases are, so there are different types of domestic violence. It does not only be physical, it's physical, emotional, verbal, financial.
Right.
And here in Meghalaya, I feel men face a lot of financial domestic violence.
Now, without divulging the details of any case, is there any particular case that you can generally discuss with, or just share with the public, without, like I said, telling us the intricate details, so that our listeners who are just listening to this podcast, or even people who are watching us, can understand that, okay, this is what domestic violence may be like. I may be a victim of such a thing. And could you also touch on the question of why is it that some people know that they are in such an abusive relationship, yet they prefer to stay in such a relationship?
So I'll answer the second one, first.
Okay.
Because it's a pattern that I've seen with a lot of women, and this is not only just with domestic violence, even with commercial sexual exploitation. A lot of people were like, oh, why do the girls continue to sell themselves? And, so it's very difficult for a woman, especially when she has trusted the man, right? Or she is in love with somebody, to just be like, okay, I'm leaving him. I'm done. I think that it's that relationship that you've been on.
Yeah.
And also that thing of, I should give him a chance. I told you, right? He will change. He can. Every woman I've met, why have you come to report so late? No, I was hoping he will change. There were
Hope
signs.
springs eternal, huh?
And a lot, because we come from state that is largely Christian.
Yeah.
A lot of them go and, they pray about it first. They seek help through their priest. They look at different avenues before actually coming to report, which is why women tend to stay. And in the rural areas, women tend to stay because of their children. We have women who are not economically independent. And she may have already minimum 5 children, from this particular man. How is she going to feed those kids? How is she going to send them to school?
Yeah.
And that is the reason why most women, they stay until it's too late.
And that, of course, leads to other problems also.
Well, without divulging any facts of the case, I'm really heavy at heart right now about one particular case where we've actually lost the life of the girl. Because for 1.5 years, she stayed in a domestic violence relationship.
Okay.
And, she's a well-educated, empowered, what we would say, an empowered girl. And even she never reported it to anybody.
Despite understanding that she's in such a relationship.
Despite understanding that. And from what I can understand, she, again, must have stayed back thinking, okay, my children, and this and that. But that's what happens when you don't report. The signs are there. And a lot of people also don't understand that now we have remedies, civil remedies, where it's not that your man is going to, the police are going to come and arrest him and put him in jail. You can go that path. But there are also the civil remedies where we have protection officers in every district. You have the Meghalaya State Commission for Women, where you can come report of your case. We can make protection orders. We can make orders for your safety and your protection, for your maintenance of your children. So you don't, even if there's a small sign of the violence starting to happen, I think it is important that you might not be ready to go to the police and talk about this, but I think you should seek, the civil remedies that are available, which will give at least you that immediate protection and your children, rather than this unfortunate case where she was not able to do that and, she had to lose her life.
Right. Taking up on what you said earlier, that sometimes when people come to the commission and they speak to you, then suddenly you make them realize that, okay, maybe you are the actual victim. Let's talk about some of the remedies that you suggested just now, and maybe highlighting what is the role of the Women's Commission, what it has been doing, or what systems are there in place that people can avail. And may I just remind our listeners and our viewers here that the Meghalaya State Commission's office right now is in Lower Lashimia. I am sure the members will welcome any sort of counseling, a consultation where you can talk about these issues that we are talking in right now. Yes, so Kongjoy, if there, what are the different kinds of maybe helplines or different kinds of systems that are in place that people can avail, and in the most simplistic way, without having that worry that, oh, it's legal, or I am the victim, should I be the one to complain? Can I complain on this person's behalf? Or can my neighbor, or if I know somebody who is my neighbor who's facing this problem, can I do the same? Let's talk about that, yes.
So I think at the state level, we have the 181, that is the Women Helpline, which if you are at that moment facing domestic violence, you just dial that number and then they will come and, get you. At every district, we now have the protection officers who sit at the one-stop centers in every hospital. And they are the ones who can pass protection orders immediately. They can help you with, filing of maintenance. And also at the same time, we have the Meghalaya State Commission for Women, which as of right now, our office is only here in Shillong, but we also have jurisdiction over Jantia Hills and Garo Hills as well. And the Meghalaya State Commission for Women, actually, if I can just take a little bit of your time, I was there right from I was very young then, but we were there when we fought for this commission to be established in Meghalaya. So if we go back into the history of it all, you know, we had a very strong women's movement here in India, where we fought right from our rights as women to vote and to work.
Right.
And then, you know, then came the passing of all the laws and everything. So we even took this fight up to Delhi at that time. Like I said, I was still very young, so I was just following actually, you know, my women mentors at that time and trying to understand, you know, this whole thing, because like I said at my introduction, I thought, I come from Meghalaya, I'm so empowered.
Exactly.
I'm like, I don't know what you all are talking about. And they're like, oh, you know, work here and then we will, you know, we'll show you what happened. And it was in that time that even I had to do a little bit of introspection myself and realized, oh my goodness, even I am a victim of violence, actually, just that I never knew that, you know, this was that. So we fought for the Meghalaya State Commission for Women to be established here, because when the first National Health Family Survey study was done in 2005, Meghalaya topped, you know, in cases of domestic violence all over India. And it was a shock. It was a shock for even the government here. It was a shock, you know, even at the center, that how can it be, you know, like a matrilineal society, and they're fine. So we were not getting any schemes, you know, related to women-centric policies and schemes and all of that. And that is why the commission was not being set up here in Meghalaya. So when the data and the statistics came about, the women's movement, you know, went and said, see, the courts in India are overburdened. You know it. You file a case with the police, it goes to court, it's probably going to take you minimum 6 to 7 years.
Right.
A woman who's facing domestic violence, who's being beaten up at home or emotionally traumatized at home, doesn't have 7 to 8 years.
Correct, correct.
She needs instant redressal of the violence that she's facing. And that is why we need, you know, the Meghalaya State Commission, you know, in place in our state, so that if a woman is facing domestic violence, she can come tell the commission, because the commission is a quasi-judicial authority. So a lot of people do not know that. But when the commission sits for its hearings, it is a court. And it has the power to summon, its orders are legal orders that can be upheld in a court of law as well, or you can challenge it in a court of law. So the Meghalaya Commission, really the Women's Commission, gives speedy and quick redressal to women who are facing various forms of violence.
That happens in the office, I mean, when you have your hearings. Okay. Is there anything you'd like to, you know, suggest or say to listeners who are, after listening to this podcast especially, who may say that, okay, maybe there is something that I need to go and talk about or counsel, or just plainly discuss. Maybe you can, you know, just have a general call to action to all of our listeners and all of our viewers as well, that they can come to this place, or they can do this, or can do that. Some sort of a message that I can talk about before I shift to something else that I want to talk, maybe something to our listeners and our viewers, please.
Okay. To all the viewers listening out there, I feel that don't hesitate. If you feel, or you might not even understand, a lot of times I know, you know, especially young girls, we don't understand the circumstance that we are in. There are so many emotions that we are feeling. Sometimes a lot of us go through a lot of, you know, mental trauma as well, because of the situations that we're in. And I'm not only talking that it could be, you know, you in a relationship with someone, because domestic violence also covers, you know, family and family relationships over there. So if you feel that, you know, you are going through something, or you want to share something, it is important that you come to the commission, or you go to the one-stop centers, and come and share of what you are going through. And it is not, you know, necessary that this is going to become a police case, or that you have to file an FIR, and, you know, you thinking of court and legal matters and legal expenses there. But it is important that you at least come and share. A lot of cases also that we've had where women don't really want to report, but it really helps when you are able to speak to a neutral person who is also able to guide you into, what are your next steps. And a lot of times, even between families or between relationships and men and women, when we are all able to sit together in a neutral setting, I think a lot of the challenges that you are facing in your relationships or at home, they're cleared out, and we can work towards a path of more cohesiveness for everybody.
Okay, thank you very much, Joy, for being here today. I'm sure there'll be a lot more to talk about in future podcasts. And thank you for shedding some light on this serious issue of domestic violence. If you or someone you know is experiencing such kind of abuse, please know that you're not alone. And there are people who want to help, people who care. You can find resources and support in the links that are given below. And remember, there is hope and healing available. Thank you for listening to us. Until we meet again, have a good day.